everyone, my name is Gizalias Kusnanda Nurrafi'u, and in this video I will review about a movie. The title is Rush. This is one of my favorite movie. This film was released in 2013 and is based on a true story. This film tells the story about two Formula One racers who become rivals and compete with each other. They are Niki Lauda, played by Daniel Burr, and James Hunt, played by Chris Hemsworth. They were the best F1 driver in 1976. Niki Lauda is someone who is serious, ambitious, and genius. Meanwhile, James Hunt is a playboy, likes parties, selfish, undisciplined, and likes to have fun. They are very opposites, and this is what makes this film interesting for me. What makes me like this film the most is that in this film there is a lot of motivation and ambition in achieving goals. I recommend this film for teenagers who are struggling to achieve their goals. Okay, now we start with the story of the film. The beginning of the film was opened with the atmosphere of German Grand Prix circuit in Nürburgring on August 1976, which was dark and wet. Heavy rain is likely to fall and will make the circuit even more dangerous. In each season, 25 racers participate in Formula One, and every year, 2 drivers die. Then, the season goes back to 1970, where Niki Lauda and James Hunt still playing in Formula 3. From here, their competition begins and they become rivals. In the end, in 1975, Niki Lauda joined the Ferrari team and became the world champion in F1. Seeing that, James Hunt did not want to lose, and finally Hunt joined McLaren team. Niki Lauda sees James Hunt as his competitor. As a person who hates to be defeated, Niki Lauda feels that defeating James Hunt is not a difficult job. The season went on, and match after match on Formula One circuit was passed by Niki Lauda with a happy ending. He often to the podium as the fastest. The title that year seems just a matter of time for him to win. However, the incident at Nürburgring made everything messy. Niki Lauda, who was hesitant to participate in the race because of the wet track and the bad weather, was finally forced to keep participating in the race until he ended up in a fatal accident. The car rolled, crashed into the track, buried to pieces, and destroyed in flames. He was burned alive in the cockpit. In the hospital, he lay helplessly. The skin on his face, in here, was damaged so that he had to transplant the skin on his thigh. Niki Lauda was lying helpless at the hospital. Meanwhile, James Hunt was unrivaled. He controlled the track, and match after match he won. Point by point he poked, until he's sure he will win the season. And then, here's the part that I like most. Niki Lauda, who saw Hunt's victory, became motivated and want to return to the track, even though he not yet fully recovered. There is a scene where he still insists on wearing his helmet while his head is still bandaged. This shows how big his ambition. And then in Italy Grand Prix, Jameson was surprised when he found out that Niki Lauda is back behind his wheels, preparing to take part in the race. Niki Lauda, who almost died 6 weeks ago, is now back and ready to race again with his iron horse. Niki Lauda's comeback was brilliant. He can end the race, even finish in fourth. Very extraordinary, especially when it's known that the wound has not healed completely. The season is not over, and Niki Lauda is starting to catch up with James Hunt. Victory after victory he won, and he collects points. His obsession with winning the season is back on track, and trouting James Hunt as champion is getting closer and closer to reality. Until finally, the final race in Tokyo, which will determine the world champion between Niki Lauda and James Hunt. Niki Lauda's points are still above Hunt by 3 points. If Hunt wants to beat Lauda, he must finish in front of Lauda and finish at least third.
So the long, grueling and incredibly dramatic season comes down to this final race in Japan in the shadow of Mount Fuji. Niki Lauda goes into this deciding race at Fuji just 3 points ahead of James Hunt. Hunt knowing he must beat the Austrian fair and square to take the title.
The day of the final race has arrived. Heavy rain soaked the tracks. Niki Lauda is afraid because of the trauma of his accident due to the wet track. The race starts. However, on lap 1, Niki Lauda immediately returned to the pit stop and decided not to participate in the race. This greatly shocked audience around the world. In the end, Jameson battled with other racers in the rain. This is also the part that I really like. Here is shown James Hunt's persistence in racing to be able to win and become the world champion. He was even willing to die to become a champion by fighting rain and wet tracks. This really illustrates how big his ambition to become world champion.
And Watson has spun! Watson has spun! Hunt manages to weave his way between that back marker and the stationary Penske. He's catching Regazzoni, but in these conditions it's one thing to catch up, it's quite another to overtake. He's alongside Claire Regazzoni. This could be the World Championship.
In the end, James Hunt finished in third place and he became F1 World Champion in 1976. At the end of the film, we are shown a scene where James Hunt and Niki Lauda are talking. There are racers who compete with each other and also respect each other. And there is a quote that is very valuable to me.
Said, Mr. Lauda, may I offer a piece of advice? Stop thinking of it as a curse to have been given an enemy in life. It can be a blessing too. A wise man gets more from his enemies than a fool from his friends. And you know what? He was right.
Which means having enemies to compete healthy is a blessing, because the enemy will always spur us on and make us even greater.
And now we're both champions of the world. It's not bad, huh?
No, it's not bad.
So don't let me down now. I need you busting my balls. Get back to work.
I will, Nicky, I will. But I intend to enjoy myself first.
Okay, That's all my review about Rush film, and I hope we can emulate the kind and positive attitude of the character of the film, and I hope this video can be useful for all of you, and thank you. See you. Bye bye.
People always think of us as rivals, but he was among the very few I liked, and even fewer that I respected. He remains the only person I envied.